I'm Vicky Sanders. I'm Chief Digital Officer at OpenFin. And today we are talking about building an open desktop ecosystem, collaboration, integration, and innovation. We have a diverse set of panelists from leading vendors in financial services and beyond who are working with the world's largest asset managers, banks, and hedge funds. At OpenFin, we love innovation. Who doesn't? But it's led to a proliferation of desktop apps and a fragmented, inefficient user experience. Nobody loves that. There is an answer, though. An open desktop ecosystem offers a promise of a more integrated and streamlined desktop. And that's what we're going to explore a little bit further. So I have here with me Joe Cappitelli from Dow Jones, Brett Berkowitz from IPC Systems, Lee Blakemore from Introhive, and also Mike Lynch from Symphony Communications. We're going to start with a round-robin question. So Lee, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your apps and your products and how consumers are accessing them today?
Yeah, sure. So Introhive is in the relationship intelligence business. And what we do is we take your data and merge it with your opportunities so that you have relationship insights about what's going on with your business opportunities. And what we see in the marketplace is our clients want to access this information where they work on the desktop. And I think it was discussed earlier about you're really onto something cool if you can take two pieces of data and put it together and tell me something new that I didn't know. But that's only cool as if it's in front of me, if it's where I work. And if I have to go log in somewhere to go find that piece of information, it's not so cool. So we put this information where our customers work, which is on the desktop.
Excellent. Mike?
Yeah, no, I think we think about it in a variety of different ways and how we think about openness and, from the desktop point of view, both in terms of community and the connectivity with your desktop applications. And, we're always focused on creating new openness and, connectivity and, I'm going to steal a word Kim mentioned earlier of access and how do we think about those things.
Brett?
So we're primarily focused on the voice part of the trader workflow. So what we've seen is customers with a desire to take the voice piece that we have and overlay all of the other silo data that they have to optimize the workflows that they have today.
Great. And Joe?
So within Dow Jones, I sit on the B2B side, so the real-time news and data business. And we primarily, up until now, we primarily go through many third-party platforms, so like a Bloomberg, a FactSet, and some of the other firms. We also sell into a lot of hedge funds and proprietary trading firms with APIs and feeds. And we were brought to OpenFin by a customer who wanted to see our content in that workflow. And that's what we've been working on for the last several quarters.
Great. Joe, I'm going to come back to you. We heard a little bit earlier in the Figma presentation about how customer expectations are changing, Gen Z, digital-first experience. How would you summarize how users' expectations have changed when it comes to their work experience and interoperability?
Well, again, we do serve a pretty diverse, within financial services, that's primarily where we operate, audience, right? So it ranges from all different parts of the world and also different age groups and so forth. But I would say, generally speaking, firms are really looking for, or end users looking for, a more digital experience, probably formed by their experience outside as just individuals. So graphics and charts within the newsroom, which includes the Wall Street Journal and other properties that we own. We do a lot of storytelling with images and graphics, and that doesn't always flow through to some of the platforms that we work with. So working with OpenFin and just our robust APIs, we can actually bring that to the user. So that'd be one thing that I think would be a little bit different in terms of folks of what they would see from us. The other stuff, and I think it was mentioned on the other panels, personalization, how do you save me time, how do you save me real estate, those types of things, and those are all kind of at the fore of what we're thinking about when we build our workflow.
And with those workflows in mind, Brett, how is that changing how you actually build applications?
So it's changed a lot. Pre-COVID, we were heavily focused on hardware devices, on the trading charts that sat on the trading desks. Obviously, everyone went home, was working from home, and the logistics of taking a turret home and connecting it, although it was possible, was cumbersome for a lot of customers. So we invested heavily. We had a massive shift in our roadmap to shift towards a Windows soft client and eventually iOS and Android mobile applications. And what we're seeing now is on top of just the portability of their trader voice aspect, they want a portability of their entire workflow as great as they could possibly have it. I think, there's been this Teams effect that, where everyone got used to it during COVID, and I have it on my PC, my phone, on my mobile device, and I have all my files and Office 365, and we're seeing that come down to the full trader voice workflow. And we've built a lot of robust APIs that enable customers to do that integration themselves. But in parallel, we've invested heavily in our relationship with OpenFin and the workspace environment, which really makes those integrations and the portability of them much more not only easier, quicker, and less cost to develop.
Yeah, fantastic. Lee, you spoke earlier about being where your clients want you to be. Could you talk a little bit more about the difference between that access point being through a traditional internet browser and actually being on the desktop?
Yeah, where we work in relationship intelligence is about understanding who knows who and how well people know each other. And surfacing that information on the desktop when you're in the middle of working through a scenario or a process sort of helps you sort of produce and be effective and be productive with your work versus trying to go find that information in a browser or elsewhere. So it's really about surfacing that information as you're working where you work.
Fantastic. Mike, turning to you, what role do communication systems like Symphony play in an open desktop? And how have clients integrated Symphony Chat into some of their desktop workflows?
Yeah, sure. I touched on it a little bit, but for us, openness and how we think about connectivity is both from a community point of view and from a workflow point of view. I often think, and one thing we think a lot about is, we talk about friction a lot, and we talk about the tier 1 banks, and you're a 22-year-old coming out of college, you show up at a bank day one, and in addition to the 700 hours of compliance training you have to do, you go through the emails that you have of how you do your work, and how do we cut through that, and how do we create an experience that is intuitive, it's modern, and it's connected. Because they're not going to want to go from step A to step B to step C. Their job's already hard enough for them to figure out what they're going to do. How do you create that connectivity? How do you allow them to bring the data they want from application A into their communication with their client? And then when they talk to that client, how do they want to talk to them? Do they want to have to find, what is the appropriate communication? Or do you want to say, hey, if they want to use WhatsApp with me, I can use WhatsApp with them. If we need to create a voice channel, we can create a voice channel. If I just need to message them. And then how can I automate that flow so that I can create value on top of that via connectivity, whether that's for T+1 settlement needs, or that's putting research into a communication so that I have an opportunity with my customer. It's all about connectivity and openness, both from a who and how and what, and bringing those together. And of course, meaning compliance all the time.
Definitely. Compliance and risk. It's amazing. Since I was a 22-year-old, which is a very long time ago now, coming out of college, going onto the trading floor, just how much has changed. What's available in terms of technology and the skill set change that we're starting to see. Lee, another thing that fascinates me about the CRM space is that research shows just the significant impact that CRM systems have on productivity, on speed to close deals, on relationship management, but we know that utilization is really low, especially in financial services, and hard to move the dial on. What recommendations, and I know we have a lot of teams here who are focused in on bringing their CRMs into the trading floor experience, what recommendations do you have for them and how to be successful?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one of these conundrums. CRM systems are fantastic, but yet if you surveyed the room, raise your hand if your CRM project or investment has gone as well as you would like, then you probably wouldn't get a lot of hands. And the issue is it still, amazingly enough, it still relies on manual entering of data. So given the discussions that we've had here this evening and the previous panels, we are still in a world where if you want to get all those actionable insights out of your CRM system, you need people to go manually type in that information, and that's just not going to happen anymore. So my suggestion would be automate that. Take the data that exists inside your system today and move it into your CRM system so that the insights that you're drawing out of the CRM systems are actually real, they're true, they're comprehensive. And that happens to be what Introhive does.
Yeah, and Brett, kind of linking from that into your views for the future. We've heard so much today about the rapid rate of change that we're experiencing. What's your vision for how voice communication can play a role in a modern desktop?
So a lot of what we're seeing from our customers is there's a lot of commonality in what they want. They all want the same thing. They have massive silos of structured data, and they want to overlay that with the voice communications component, but they all want to do it in a different way. So we're looking at things like natural language processing and AI to help automate, like some of the others we're just talking about, automate those workflows and have some predictive aspect to it. In a similar way that on my phone, if I search for a restaurant while I'm here in New York City and I get a link that pops up to order my Uber from where I am to take me there and make my reservation on Resi or OpenTable right from that link, it's similar type of workflow optimizations that we're hearing from our customers, and they're looking to implement them. And again, to point back to Workspace, the fact that our product, our soft client, and our turret will be integrated into the Workspace environment facilitates the integration of those bespoke, complex workflows in a much more easy and rapid way.
Yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic in terms of mobile to the desktop, and then with some of the things we're working on, back to mobile. Joe, you mentioned this in your intro a little bit in terms of how you're able to have more control over the end user experience when you own that delivery. How, when you think about your engagement model with your end clients, how are you starting to really move the needle in terms of how they can access Dow Jones News?
Well, I think somebody said it, we want to be where our customers want us to be, so that's kind of first and foremost. But within the OpenFin experience, it gives us the ability to respond, right? So it gives us the ability to understand what's working, what's not working through usage and analytics, and it gives us the ability to respond to that and or customer requests, whereas in other scenarios, we need to work with somebody and ask them to put it on their roadmap. So that's one of the more empowering pieces of this. So for example, notifications, one of the things that people want is content pushed at them that's relevant. And that's one of the features that I'm particularly interested in making really good for news alerts on the OpenFin platforms. And we have some ways that can be done, we think, in a really good way. So that's what we're excited about it.
Yeah, there's a lot to do there. It's very exciting. Mike, coming back to you, and we are nearly done, folks, I promise. Coming back to you, we heard about workflows. Workflows, in my mind, is interoperability across systems, whoever owns that application, right? So how is interoperability changing the way in which some of your users can use their existing communication systems?
It's changing it tremendously, because what we're seeing is more and more of our individual customers have engineering developer backgrounds, so they can do more themselves. We're seeing more applications, including our own, become low and no code. So just the creative, and on top of that, what's changing in terms of AI and access to some of these tools internally, it's just the explosion of creativity and new ideas that users are creating by combining A plus B plus C, combining something that's totally new, and that then deploying it into a platform that allows them to connect it to that customer base gets a different flavor than that customer base, and bringing it all together, and then then connecting it into their CRM so that it all becomes this connectivity. It's really amazing what teams can do. I think where we're now seeing that the opportunity is going from a desk using that new idea to how does a department, to a division, to an organization, and that I think is this whole room's next challenge as we see these evolutions.
Yeah, I agree with you a lot there. In the audience tonight, we have many app owners, we have many developers. Maybe we can wrap on a final question, a couple of words of advice, if each of you could could give your advice in terms of what you'd recommend people should be doing today as they think about their next project or as they're continuing to develop their application suite, what should they be doing in terms of collaboration, integrations, and planning for an open desktop? Maybe we will start with you, Joe.
Sure. Well, I can say that even just tonight, I mean, I walked along that back wall and just saw some of the different applications out there and introduced myself to people and really started to learn, tell them who I was and learn from what they're doing. I mean, I would say humbly, we should, really try and collaborate, learn from each other, and try and solve problems together. I know it's very hard to do it as a single person and certainly even as a single company. So be humble and try and work with the community.
Yeah, it's great to have such a community and ecosystem here tonight and connected. Brett?
I would say speak to your vendors and work closely with your vendors and their partners. When we do our roadmap planning, we always leave a certain amount of resources aside for customer inputs. We have regular quarterly roadmap reviews with most of our customers, and a large amount of what we hear from them ends up on our roadmap. And some of it we can't always do by ourselves, and we look to partners like OpenFin to help us execute on them. So, close communication and partner-like relationship with our customers is benefits both sides.
Fantastic. Mike?
Yeah, I think, in the end, the biggest beneficiary of openness and connectivity is the end user. And for me, and lots of people in this room work together, are collaborators, but also some of us compete a little bit here and there, a lot of it. But in the end, us all working together creates a better experience for the user by giving them not just choice, but the ability to solve multiple problems with multiple tools, and that inherently helps all of us grow our market. And an open market is a bigger market, and that's good for all of us on this platform, but also all of our customers using our products.
It's a great articulation of best in breed. It's not the same for everyone, we know. Lee, finally over to you.
Yeah, I'd say, given all this great technology that is all around us and all these cool things that are happening, we can't lose sight of when you're doing business with other organizations or other people, real relationships really matter and still matter. And a relationship doesn't mean that we're connected on LinkedIn, because I have like 5,000 of those and I know 5 of them. And one of them's my daughter and the other one's my, so real relationships still matter, and we can't lose sight of that even though we have all this great technology around us.
Phenomenal. I would like to ask everyone to thank our panelists. Join me in a round of applause.